Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a sci-fi movie review and I'll be having a look at the film Enemy Mine today. So this stars Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. and really is the story sometime in the future. All of the sort of Earth's different sort of populations have kind of put their differences aside and now working together, and they're basically expanding into space for sort of new place to colonize and also sort of to mine resources and things like that. However, we discover early on in the film that they're not the only ones. There's an alien race called the Drax, who are a race of like lizard type people who are also doing the same. And inevitably that leads to war between the two species. So early on in the film, we're introduced to Dennis Quaid's character, and he's like a pilot in sort of the military, I guess. And they have a kind of like a sort of spaceship fight. It's really the only one in the film, to be honest with you. And there, Dennis Quaid's character has a dogfight with one of the alien sort of spaceships, and they both end up sort of damaging each other and crash land on the planet. Now we see the Drax sort of pilot eject, so we know he's around somewhere, and Dennis Quaid survives, although his co-pilot doesn't. So being stranded on the planet, Dennis Quaid really decides that his best option is to try and kill the sort of the Drax that he's seen escaping from the escape pod. Maybe try and see if he can salvage anything in his crashed spaceship. So at the beginning, we have a bit of a conflict with the two characters, and we're introduced to the Drax character played by Louis Gossett Jr. And obviously, initially they have a little bit of a conflict first of all, but through a series of events, really, they actually end up sort of working together. So the planet's pretty inhospitable, and there's not really any other sort of intelligent life on that's indigenous to the planet, so they have to work together in order to survive. And sort of initially it's kind of begrudgingly, and they kind of don't really trust each other and are sort of bickering and arguing, but as the sort of story progresses, they sort of become genuine friends. And one of the key strengths of this film is the sort of the genuine chemistry you have between these two characters, and that's testament to the actors. Obviously, Louis Gossett Jr. is sort of covered in makeup, which looks pretty decent. Even, I mean, this film's, I think, 25 years old now, the time I'm reviewing it, and most of the effects and makeup still look pretty good, even by today's standards. Some of the model effects and the spaceships may be a bit dated, but the actual makeup and stuff, I think looks pretty decent, to be honest with you. And the creature designs are great. And they basically, as I say, the planet's pretty inhospitable, and there's some severe weather, including like fairly constant meteor storms and severe cold and things like that. Not to mention there appears to be like this kind of subterranean creatures that sort of come up and cause a bit of a threat on multiple occasions. So again, these two characters are sort of forced to sort of really become friends, and they learn each other's customs, learn each other's languages. And that's really the sort of the first half, maybe 2/3 of this film. Now we're told that the Drax, the aliens, don't actually have two sexes; they only ever have just the one. So he basically, or it, I should suppose, actually ends up being pregnant and giving birth to a small baby Drax. Now, unfortunately, the character played by Louis Gossett Jr. dies in childbirth, so it's left up to Dennis Quaid really to raise this sort of baby alien. Now at this point, there's never really been an alien and human allegiance, so this is really the first time, as far as we know at least, that there has been this kind of relationship between the two species. And we're told that the Drax grew up a lot quicker than the human, so he's kind of like an adolescent really, sort of within pretty much no time, and he sort of refers to him as uncle. The last third of this film was dealing with these kind of like these sort of scavenger type, pirate types humans that sort of end up on this planet, and they've got these Drax as slaves, or they're sort of pillaging for various minerals or what have you, and they end up sort of like just grabbing the sort of adolescent Drax and sort of putting him into slavery whilst injuring Dennis Quaid. So you've got then Dennis Quaid sort of basically wants to sort of go back once he's sort of picked up by the military who's just happened to find him, and sort of goes back to rescue him. And then it's got a very sort of, it's quite an emotional film. It's quite you do feel you have emotionally invested in these characters. You get a great relationship, not just with Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr.'s characters, but also with Dennis Quaid and the sort of the young Drax, or they call him Sammy's or something like that. And you do get a genuine sense of parental concern between the sort of between Dennis Quaid and this little alien boy, really. Now I guess if I had to say this is a damn good film, but if I had to say maybe I'd pick some criticisms, it maybe does go for the obvious sort of sentimental stuff, and that is maybe a little bit too sappy sometimes. But that's only a small criticism, to be honest with you. I mean, it does even you're sort of upset about aliens getting killed and stuff like that, and then so it does its job well of investing you. But I think maybe it's kind of maybe goes a little bit too sappy. But that's a really small criticism, and that's the only really thing I can sort of say about this. And maybe aside from there are a few bits where it just seems a little bit convenient. Like as I say, the military managed to sort of pick up Dennis Quaid pretty much just after he happens to get injured and just laying in the sort of desert or whatever, and they just happen to come across him just then, and the world happens to be sort of hospitable with air and water and things like that. So yeah, fair enough. Okay, there may be some sort of coincidental things that are going on here, but it doesn't take away. This is a really great film, and it's really driven by the performances and the characters that are delivered by the actors. So, fantastic movie, and it's really sort of one of those sort of sci-fi films that I feel has sort of been forgotten. I don't think it was ever a massive film. Even when it came out, it kind of seemed to sort of slip under the radar to a certain degree, which is a shame because it really deserves another look, I think. So if you're a sci-fi fan, you've not heard of this film, it hasn't aged all that badly, as I said. There's maybe a couple of the effect shots with the spaceships and stuff that maybe look a little bit old, but if you can sort of get past it, there's not all that many of them, to be honest with you. But the actual makeup of the aliens and the practical effects of the sort of the creatures and stuff that are underground, I think are great. So check it out. I mean, I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Really, really good film. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about it, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.